With AoZ coming closer and closer, I have updated my Bonespear guide. As you can see here, we're starting out with the skill tree, and there are quite a lot of changes in the skill tree already to the two-hander version that I made at the start of the season, which I used to actually blast and become hardcore SSF world first on Necro. So Bonespear extremely strong and nowhere near as nerfed as we thought at the start of the season. As we can see here, we actually this time are going to go 3 out of 3 in unliving energy because the idea behind Bonespear has actually changed. Macro BioBoy released a video about the Necro and how maximum essence and lucky hit is actually scaling your damage way higher than crit chance and crit damage are going to, and you will still be almost crit capped with this build still. So big numbers are still gonna exist, but on top of that you will never run out of resource. So let's see, we will run 3 imperfectly balanced of course, and again, as I said, unliving energy 3 out of 3 to increase that maximum essence. As you can see here, Hued Flesh 3 out of 3 gonna be extremely important with the combo that we have here next with the Grim Harvest and also the Ring of the Sacrilegious, which is going to basically result in an endless generation of resource over and over again without you actually having to interact with anything. But we're getting ahead of ourselves. We obviously want to have max rank in Bonespear, and we want to play Paranormal Bonespear basically for the 5% crit and the additional projectiles. Now, as I already said, 3 in Grim Harvest, 3 in Fueled by Death, then Death's Reach, because we always want to keep our distance to the mobs in Abattoir of Seer, because if they're close, then we might even have a big problem. So a lot of stutter stepping involved. Then Amplify damage, because we are playing Decrepify, and we really look forward to the stun that is possible with Enhanced Decrepify and our huge lucky hit chance. Now, this one is going to be extremely helpful in Abattoir of Seer, and it's also going to proc fairly often with the amount of lucky hit that we have. On top of that, we also can reduce our active cooldown, which is basically Corpse Tendrils or Bone Storm all of the time, which is going to help you out tremendously when it comes to spamming Corpse Tendrils for even more CC. And as you can see here, we want to have Corpse Tendrils, and we also have a lot of ranks in Corpse Tendrils to further reduce the cooldown. And we on top of that also want the slow with enhanced Corpse Tendrils. Then we take everything in the bone cluster. The rapid ossification is fairly new. I have not been using this one before. As you can see here, it's reducing the bone skill cooldown whenever you're spending 100 essence, which is also going to help you even further scale down the cooldown of Bone Storm. The 3 points in rapid ossification might actually not be necessary as we progress further into the Abattoir of Seer. I will definitely update here with my findings during my push on hardcore. If you want to join in and have questions to the build or Necro in general or pushing AoZ in general, you can find the Twitch link down in the description and the pinned comment below. Next up, we obviously want to go standalone, Memento Mori, Bone Storm, which was not in the two-hander version, and obviously Ossified Essence as probably still the best, or at least one of the best key passives in the game. To be able to fit the crazy new unique glyph Tears of Blood, I had to do several changes to the Paragon board. It just now looks like this. Not a lot of big changes, but some small changes here and there, but way more important than that is actually the bottom left hand corner. As you can see, we do have 2 variants that are not really that different. As you can see here, I'm currently on the rank 50 or level 50 variant. If I swap to the level 1, you have minimal changes. You don't even need to place Paragon boards differently. And I suggest you check out the build down in the pinned comment and the description below on the Max Roll Planner to just copy the Paragon board in the easiest way. I'm not going to bore you with going through everything here. It's pretty standard stuff, and if you follow this one-to-one, you will be golden. Then for aspects and gear, we have quite a lot of changes because we are scaling our lucky hit and our maximum essence. And obviously we need to have a crazy amount of total armor to be able to defeat or even tank the damage in Abattoir of Seer. So we really want to have total armor on the helmet. We also have that on the chest and on the necklace, but I'll get to that during this section. As you can see here, max life, total armor, maximum essence, and lucky hit chance, while we have a barrier, which is going to come from the shielding storm aspect that is placed on the helmet, as you can see here. this aspect is basically our crazy defense for Abattoir of Seer, because we will have Bone Storm up all of the time, generating shielding storms by having Lidless Wall equipped. Not only is Lidless Wall giving us more armor, but it basically proliferates Bone Storm all of the time, because we will trigger the lucky hit over and over. And on top of that, which is really good, it has max life, attack speed, max essence, and also another chance to restore primary resource. So that shield is actually really good for the version of Bonespear that we are going to play come Abattoir of Seer. Next up, we have the chest, we have Disobedience here, and we want to have as much armor as possible here, so therefore 925. And if you are running around with like an 850 item power chest, that is going to make a huge difference, because all the total armor are obviously going to take that number and then scale it upwards. As you can see here, total armor, damage reduction from close, which could also be distant, for example, flat DR, max life, and again, a max roll Disobedience for sure, to get to that juicy sweet spot of around 13.7k armor that you need for the armor cap. Then gloves, extremely offensive. As usual, we want to have the lucky hit, chance to restore primary resource, Bonespear ranks, crit and attack speed, and we place the serration aspect here, and obviously as much of an item power as possible to get that more armor and actually scale our armor even further. Then Tybalt's Will. This hasn't been in the build that I was using for the race in the two-hand version, but since we now know that the mobs in Abattoir of Seer are not going to scale to level 179, but way lower than that, we actually don't need the additional total armor coming from the pants, which is going to enable us to wear Tybalt's Will. As you can see here, we get potion capacity, which is negligible, but probably not that bad in AoZ. We get damage reduction from close, additive damage here with the 26.2 and maximum resource, further increasing our damage, and obviously a crazy multiplier with Tybalt's Will with the 40% multi whenever we are unstoppable, which is always going to be the case with Metamorphosis. Then on the boots, those are a little bit mix and match, as we want to have movement speed, essence cost reduction, ranks of corpse tendrils, and cold resistance. This cold resistance here has to be whatever you are lacking. What's also possible, and we have to further find that out as soon as AoZ launches, maybe you could also get rid of the movement speed fully and take another resistance, for example, then you could put more armor in your jewelry, for example, or you could also put something here like dodge chance or dodge chance against distant, maybe all stats, something like that. So boots are definitely very versatile when it comes to AoZ, and we do have to find out what is actually going to be needed, but the essence cost reduction, the ranks of corpse tendrils are going to be extremely important, reducing our corpse tendril cooldowns even further, just giving us way more safety through additional CC. Then our wand for the additional lucky hit chance, we want to have corpse tendrils here, and then int all sets Vuln core skill. The Vuln could also be something like critical strike damage with bone skills or flat critical strike damage. That's definitely totally fine here. I just took the vulnerable damage because that is going to be active all of the time, where instead on the critical strike damage you are not always gonna be critting, but I do have a calculation there which you can actually see where we will reach 99.1% crit chance, probably in like 80 or even 90% of the AoZ fights. So we will be critting fairly often, I would like to say. Then again, Lidless Wall, an insane shield for Bonespear, because we can make use of all of these stats on there, and the effect is obviously godly and is going to keep us alive with the shielding storm aspect and bone storm. Then necklace, splintering, also a little bit more versatile than usual. I did put damage reduction, total armor, essence cost reduction, and ranks of the Evulsion passive there, because that is going to give us the most damage possible on the passives and further reduce the essence costs. But we do need two defensives on here. In my opinion, the damage reduction is going to be very, very good. And of course, the total armor to get that juicy 13.7k cap on armor. Then next up, a ring with exposed flesh, which is going to be very easy to trigger with our lucky hits because we have so much lucky hit on our gear. Crit, max life, lucky hit, and max essence. And last but not least, Ring of the Sacrilegious, which is going to over and over and over, use your corpse explosions, and you don't even need to spend any skills there, right? We don't actually spend points there, and we get it for free. That's actually really, really important and really strong. On top of that, we also get lucky hit chance, maximum essence, and of course max life. So that one again, and basically made for this version of Bonespear when it comes to the ring slot. And of course, get the effect as low as possible, grind out that Varshan, because that effect is going to tremendously help you with the corpse tendrils being 8 seconds versus 16 seconds on the ring. For the class mechanic, which was hidden behind my camera, we actually want to sacrifice skirmishers for 8% more crit. That is boosted by Memento Mori, that's why it's a little bit higher. Then we want to have the cold mages sacrificed for the additional vulnerable damage, and then of course sacrificing the iron golem for the 30 multi on critical strike damage. For the vampiric powers, we are looking at metamorphosis to trigger Thibault's Will over and over and over again, and it actually is not a big problem if you leveled the metamorphosis to level 3. Don't really worry about it, it's gonna be fine. You don't need to make a new character here, so don't worry about this. Then Ravenous for that additional DPS increase overall in the dungeon. Then I really like to run Undying together with Ring of the Sacrilegious, because that is going to proc over and over and over again, basically keeping you topped off all of the time. You could change this to Resilient, which is going to be probably necessary the higher we go. We do have it right here. But again, I think these are really, really close to each other. You can definitely play around with those. I suggest Undying because it's basically triggered all of the time through Ring of the Sacrilegious and the stuff that you are casting yourself. So that's pretty strong. Then we have Prey on the Weak, which is confirmed not being multiplicative here. So that's actually just 16% additive damage, so not really that much that we can do about this. And last but not least, Sanguine Brace, which is going to give us Fortify and is going to give us critical strike chance, basically boosting our crit chance even more. Now, speaking of crit, I have taken the character that you can see here with 33.3% critical strike chance and actually calculated how much crit we are actively gonna get. Because the value that you can see here in the max roll planner is not what you really have. It doesn't really include all of the things. So I listed up every source of crit that we have. We do have 8% from the sacrifice, as you remember, which is going to be buffed by Memento Mori. We do have 4% crit on the Paragon. We do get 5% from the paranormal Bonespear, which is the lower of the upgrades. Then I have the Bone Splinters in brackets because you're not always going to cast those because they only last 4 seconds. I didn't even calculate with these. Then Grasping Veins, which is going to be active almost all of the time, and Bone Storm, which is going to be active all of the time. As you can see here, we end up with 90.3% without splinters. Now, if you would add splinters into the mix, we would obviously be at 98.3%, which is ridiculous if you ask me. But on top of that, we also have the Sanguine Brace, which is further going to give us 8% crit while we have more Fortify than half of our max life. So you actually end up being way higher than 100% crit, but the ideal thing here would be to have a little bit of leeway because Grasping Veins might not always be up, Bone Splinters might not always be up. And on top of that, I haven't even included the Serration, which is going to give us around 6% more crit chance, so you will have way more than you need. I'm really looking forward to play Bonespear in Abattoir because that is literally one of my most loved builds in the entire game, but it's not going to be as easy because, as we have seen, the Bloodseekers at the end of the Abattoir dungeon, the bosses that you need to be able to defeat, can have a suppressor affix on them. And as you might know, suppressor is the death of Bonespear. If you can corpse tendrils them very, very close to a wall, then it's a non-affix, but I'm not so sure how feasible that is going to be. If we get lucky and you never face a suppressor end of the dungeon pack, then Bonespear is going to be blasting. So if you want to see me try that out and suffer on hardcore, check out the Twitch link down in the description below. And if you like content similar to this, make sure to subscribe to this YouTube channel, and I'll see you next time.